Good evening, everybody. My name is Shireen Johns, and the educational speaker that I chose was W.E.B. Du Bois because of his great contributions to education. So, for those of you that don't know, W.E.B. Du Bois was a social leader, a civil rights activist, a scholar, an educator, and he actually was an educator at my alma mater, Clark Atlanta University. But at the time that he taught there, it was called Atlanta University. So W.E.B. Du Bois was born February 23rd, 1868, and he actually died in 1963 in Ghana. One of the fun facts about W.E.B. Du Bois was that in 1895 he actually became the first African American to obtain a PhD from Harvard University. And every goal that he basically worked towards was to create equal opportunities for African Americans. So he first learned about um, American racism and the Jim Crow laws when he was in college. He actually attended at Fisk University. So when he was at Fisk University in Tennessee, it was there that he encountered the Jim Crow laws, and he began analyzing American racism. So he did obtain his bachelor's degree from Harvard University. I mean, from excuse me, from Fisk University before entering Harvard University, and he basically used his whole life to promote and create equality for African American people. So, another fun fact was that he co-founded the NAACP in 1909, which is the National Advancement Association for Colored People, and he died before actually the Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech um, at the March on Washington. So he also attended a school in Berlin that I can't pretty much pronounce. Harvard University, Fisk University, and he was an educator, like I said, at Atlanta University. He was born in Massachusetts, and he did die in Ghana. One of his biggest critics was Booker T. Washington, because of the fact that Booker T. Washington actually believed that African Americans should focus more on like technical training and agricultural farming training, and Du Bois, on the other hand, wanted an integrated liberal arts education for African American people. So his common goal, no matter what, was the equality of colored people. So Du Bois did believe that fundamental rights should not be compromised for any reason, and that segregation was wrong. And one of his quotes, he believed that education must not simply teach work, it must teach life. And as educators nowadays, it's like it's not just about teaching the curriculum. You also have to teach your students how to be lifelong productive citizens, and he did that. He was the epitome of an excellent educator and just a great activist that just wanted equality for all people. Um, he also thought the best way to have or fight for equality for all people was to give African Americans the proper education that they needed. W.E.D. Du Bois, a fun fact, the first case study of an African American community was conducted by W.E.B. Du Bois, published as the Philadelphia Negro, a social study in 1899. He also wrote about the souls of black folks. He was a proponent of the Pan African Americanism. Du Bois helped organize several Pan Africanism congresses to free African colonies from European powers. Um, Everything that you could ever imagine for African Americans to pave the way for them, W.E.B. Du Bois has contributed to that. So without W.E.B. Du Bois today, schools would probably still be segregated. African Americans would not have the equal rights that everyone else has. And it's such a blessing to know that there was someone out there that felt like, let me strive to be great, because we are all leaders. It just takes us to find the courage to fulfill our potential. So he was also known to be like a mulatto back in that time, and he did live in a white community prior going to Fisk University in Tennessee. And his teachers loved him, and the majority of his teachers were Caucasian teachers, and they loved him. But it was when he got to Fisk that he really realized, like, wow, racism is real. And I believe at that time he actually he didn't get into an altercation, but one of his classmates happened to be, he realized that he was being judged on the color of his skin and not the content of his character. I'll stick with the MLK speech on that one. So by doing that, he basically, instead of going into depression and realizing like, wow, like I'm different, he used, his struggle, or he used that moment to shape everything, shape the education for African Americans, shape equality for African Americans, and shape the thinking of African Americans. He made it basically his career to fight for equal rights for African Americans. So I chose him because, like I said, we wouldn't be African Americans wouldn't be where we are today as far as progression, advancement, without the help of W.E.B. Du Bois. So I definitely wanted to highlight some of his major accomplishments, and that is exactly why I chose him. So I hope you guys learned something new if you didn't know about W.E.B. Du Bois, and peace and blessings to you all.